The clash between Dijonai Carrington and Caitlin Clark left audiences buzzing, and it's not because of an epic buzzer beater or a highlight reel dunk. Instead, the game took an unexpected turn when Carrington's raw intensity boiled over, resulting in a moment that turned heads and raised eyebrows across the basketball community. Carrington, known for her tenacity and assertiveness on the court, and Clark, a rising star recognized for her sharpshooting and playmaking, became the central figures in an altercation that nobody saw coming, but nobody could ignore once it happened. But before we proceed further, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. Dijonai Carrington's playing style can be summed up in one word: relentless. On defense, she's like a hawk circling its prey, waiting for the right moment to pounce. She's never been shy about throwing her body around, diving for loose balls, or locking in on her matchup, like she's got tunnel vision. This ferocity has endeared her to fans, earned her the respect of her peers, and put her on highlight reels for all the right reasons. But in this case, it was her over-the-top aggression that led to all the wrong kind of headlines. The incident occurred in what seemed like a routine scuffle for position, something you'd expect to see in any competitive game. Clark, known for being an absolute offensive juggernaut, was setting up on the wing. Carrington, tasked with guarding her, wasn't about to let her have an inch of breathing room. In the moments leading up to the clash, the tension was already palpable. Clark, as usual, had been lining it up from deep, sinking threes with a quick trigger and a trademark swagger. Carrington, who prides herself on being a lockdown defender, seemed to take this as a personal challenge. You could almost see the determination in her eyes, like she was on a mission to shut Clark down, no matter what it took. This wasn't just a game, it was a battle of wills, and Carrington wasn't going to be shown up. The turning point came in the third quarter when Clark maneuvered to get open on the wing. Carrington, in her typical aggressive style, pressed up on her, getting physical to disrupt her rhythm. It was intense, but nothing out of the ordinary, at least at first. Then, as Clark pivoted to make a move, Carrington's intensity escalated. Whether it was frustration from Clark's shooting spree or just an uncalculated burst of aggression, Carrington lashed out. It wasn't subtle either. She swung an arm in a way that looked more like an MMA fighter throwing a hook than a basketball player fighting through a screen. Clark, taken by surprise, stumbled backward, clearly stunned by the contact. The whistle blew almost immediately, but the damage was already done. It was one of those moments where you could hear a collective "whoa" ripple through the crowd. Teammates from both sides rushed in, officials sprinted to defuse the situation, and coaches from each bench put their hands on their heads, eyes wide in shock. Carrington, known for her usually cool demeanor despite her intense style, stood there, arms at her sides, as if she was realizing in real time what had just happened. Clark, on the other hand, collected herself, more stunned than seriously hurt, but clearly not happy with how things had gone down. For Carrington, this wasn't just a foul or even a flagrant. It was something that seemed to go beyond the normal physicality of the game. Fans, analysts, and social media warriors wasted no time weighing in. Some painted Carrington as a villain, saying she had let her emotions get the better of her and crossed a line that shouldn't be crossed. Others saw it as the heat of the moment in an intensely competitive environment. But regardless of which side people were on, the fallout was swift and decisive. Carrington's reputation, which had been mostly positive up until that point, took a heavy hit. To understand why this incident became such a big deal, you have to look at the context. Carrington had always been a player who wore her emotions on her sleeve, and while this has made her a fan favorite in many cases, it also made her a polarizing figure. People loved her intensity when it led to diving saves and game-changing defensive stops. But when that same intensity turned into something more aggressive, it became harder to justify. Clark, on the other hand, is the golden child of modern basketball, a player who can drain threes from practically the locker room and flash a smile that says she knows she's just put her defender on skates. She's that person you love if she's on your team and hate if she's dropping daggers on your squad. The collision of these two personalities, Carrington's hard-nosed, no-nonsense approach and Clark's confident, almost flashy style, created a perfect storm. On the court, it was like watching a fire meet gasoline, and in the aftermath of the altercation, the reactions were explosive. Carrington was scrutinized in a way she hadn't been before. For every past action, every hard foul, every stare down was re-examined under a new and less favorable light. The narrative shifted, and Carrington found herself the target of criticism that went far beyond what happened in that split second on the court. It's interesting, though, because this wasn't the first time Carrington had faced adversity. Her journey to this point had been anything but smooth. She'd battled through injuries, doubts about her game, and the pressure of living up to expectations from her days as a top recruit. And every time, she had come back stronger, more focused, and more determined to prove people wrong. That's what made this incident such a turning point. It wasn't just about a single play or a single game. It was about a pattern of behavior, or at least that's how it was being framed in the court of public opinion. For Carrington, this moment could either become a defining setback or a catalyst for growth. It's the kind of situation that forces athletes to look in the mirror and figure out what kind of player they want to be. Some bounce back with a new sense of purpose, channeling their energy in a more controlled way. Others struggle to shake off the stigma, letting it eat away at their confidence and ultimately their career. Right now, it's too early to say which path Carrington will take. But there's no denying that this was a pivotal moment in her career. Caitlin Clark, on the other hand, handled the situation with the kind of poise you'd expect from someone who has been in the spotlight since high school. She didn't lash out or escalate the situation, which only served to highlight the contrast between the two players. For Clark, this was just another obstacle in a season filled with challenges, and she seemed ready to move on almost immediately. But for Carrington, the repercussions were far from over. Every replay, every slow-motion breakdown, everything piece dissecting what happened only served to deepen the narrative that Carrington was a player who had let her emotions get the better of her. What makes this all the more intriguing is that both Carrington and Clark are players who thrive on emotion. Clark plays with a chip on her shoulder, often talking trash and letting her opponents know exactly how many threes she's drained in their faces. Carrington, too, feeds off the intensity of the game, using her energy to fuel her defensive tenacity. It's what makes them both great, but it's also what set the stage for this clash. As the dust settles, one thing is clear. This incident won't be forgotten anytime soon. It will be replayed and rehashed in highlight packages and social media debates. Fans will argue about whether Carrington's actions were justified or if she crossed a line. Clark will likely use it as motivation, something to remind herself that even in the face of adversity, she stayed calm and kept playing her game. And for Carrington, it's a moment that will either push her to reevaluate how she channels her passion on the court or serve as a permanent stain on her reputation. This clash was more than just a physical altercation. It was a clash of styles, personalities, and narratives. Carrington's aggressive, defense-first mentality met Clark's free-flowing, score-at-will style head-on, and the result was an incident that left a mark on both players' legacies. For Carrington, this might be a wake-up call, a chance to redefine how she plays and how she's perceived. For Clark, it's just another chapter in a career that's already seen its fair share of highs and lows. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. We thrive on your feedback, so be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, keep discovering and stay tuned.